And hello, and welcome to AleksConnects Creative Sandbox. My name is Alex, and let's continue our Fanart project Angry Birds vs Transformers. Yeah, let's just continue. So, where we left off. Again, quick thing with the model. Quick recap. So, a couple of sessions ago, we ended up with this 3D view of the Transformers statues, or at least the base for them, which we're going to use throughout the whole illustration. And yeah, occasionally I'm going to look at this model in order to figure out the form. I don't think though that I need this at this particular stage of the game, because like or at this particular stage of painting, because I'm not going to concern too much myself with details for now, because again we're working with pretty with zoom 200, and it's not going to depict any details at all, so I don't think that I need to stress about details at this particular stage. So yeah, I don't think that I'm going to use this 3D thing, because for the most part, yeah, we definitely need this sculpture. We will need this sculpture on the later stages of the painting, when we're going to render it, or when we're going to create a final sketch, or not sketch, but final line art for our rendering. But before that, I think it's better if I just close it, because it kind of overloads GPU a bit, so to make things a little bit faster. Okay, let's just prepare everything. This session is going to be about a 2-hour session. I don't think that I'm going to extend it, because again, what? Wait a minute. Yeah, I don't think that I will extend this session, but we'll see. We will see. So, throughout today's session, previously we determined the main things that we need to know about. By the way, let's just turn off our assistant things and show assistant previews to get rid of these lines, because they're going to create problems. So yeah, throughout the previous session we basically determined, or we worked on the lighting staging. Or we didn't stage light necessarily, but at least we worked on things that we need to understand and know before we are going to start staging staging, or staging lighting, whatever is right now. So yeah, for now, of course, I'm working for the most part on the values. Yeah, so right now, like, I'm actually more concerned with values than anything else. Again, ideally I would think about materials too, but it's too early to think about materials. So for now, because this is kind of overloads information, especially when you're not that experienced, so you need to divide things. So of course it's pretty hard to work on multiple things at once. That's why I'm going through these stages step by step, because if you're going to dive in right away into trying to depict materials, and right away you will add color to this one, you will definitely mess up the values, because you don't connect value and color and how they work together. So that's why I kind of want to go step by step with these things. First we're going to work with value, then we're going to work with colors, then we will add materials, or materials is going to be in between. I will think about that. Whatever is going to work best, I will figure it out. So yeah, again, as a reminder, I'm not experienced artist. This is like my first complex illustration. This is probably my first illustration of this caliber, and I'm still like learning myself. I'm trying to figure out what to do, what questions to ask, better, that will allow me to control process. And again, I'm looking at this not just from the standpoint of, okay, I'm just sitting and drawing and painting. I'm trying to analyze this process in order to present it in it, I don't know how to properly put it, but probably in the more detailed way, because like I think if you want to just look at the process of like creation from start to finish, it's the better probably to use some type of speed paints on YouTube or whatever, because speed paints will answer you questions like how to like start and where to finish in overall. But unfortunately, these type of like information, this type of information doesn't answer bigger questions, like for instance how to approach all these things. So I hope that I'm here for this, to actually help you, and by helping me too at the same time, to actually find a way to approach these things, because again, like how to control every part of the process in the better way to actually know what you're doing, because most like beginning artists, they don't know what they're doing, and like they could possess a particular knowledge, but if they do, but for the most part I think they not necessarily know what they're doing, and this notion usually created by for instance, for me it was created because I constantly watched all these speed paints in the internet, like and my brain started to think, okay, there's not that hard thing to paint, it's relatively easy, you just sit, start to draw something, and you paint something. But in reality, it turns out that it's not that easy. You need to put actual thoughts into it. You don't just sit and trying to draw something. For the professional, because they have experience and they have all this information already in their brain, and they have this a lot of years of practice and learning behind them and experience, and that's why it looks effortless. But for the beginner, it's not effortless at all. And usually when you're looking at these speed paints, your brain's kind of automatically like feels like it's actually easier than it looks. But when you're actually starting to do this, depending on how your brain works, you're starting to actually face a lot of problems. And so that's why I'm basically like breaking down all these things in all these theoretical things. I'm trying to do this for myself at the same time, and I actually hope that it will help you too, because for me, this is how my brain works, as I've already talked a lot about this. I need to break down things in order to understand them and control them. I don't like to feel hopeless, or not hopeless, but like helpless when I'm creating something. I need to control things, and it kind of gives me more confidence in myself, because if someone will approach me and tell me, okay, you need to do this, 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 by controlling things, I will know how to do this. But if I'm not going to control things, I'm going to constantly face this, I don't know, feeling that, oh no, I can't do this, I don't know, sure, could I can do this, no. So I'm not going to be confident enough. And these instruments that I'm providing, they supposed to add a little bit of confidence to your work. They definitely add a lot of confidence in my decision making, because again, if I would just start painting something right away, I would probably at some point started to, I don't know, go through struggles, and then I basically would lose to these struggles. in order to not go into this particular state, I need something to control these feelings. So if I'm feeling a particular struggle, I need to know how to overcome this struggle, rather than just feeling helpless and panicking and don't know what I'm doing. So again, this is the way for me to structure all this information and actually learn how to control it. So yeah, I'm starting to ramble, whatever. So continue. Again, quick overview. So that's why I need to go through these stages. I'm putting like what we need to do in order to stage lighting. We need to understand the mood, we need to understand spatial limitations, we need to understand the type of light and its availability in the particular setting. We need to understand or at least know what light sources are visible or not in our picture plane, because it's going to be super important for us to actually create a particular value composition. And of course we need to understand how many lights we have, because like we need to do this, because if we don't understand how many lights we have, we're just going to render it without thoughts, and we need to understand where every light is actually placed in the scene in order to control it. So yeah, and throughout today's session I'm going to try to finally go through the sculpting, or not sculpting but painting, which is like a sculpting. So we are going to put so basically I'm going to create something like this. I'm going to start with probably middle gray, and then I will go and add dark values and light values. So yeah, and before we're going into lighting, or as usual, we need to understand the limitations of our value scale. So we need to figure out what type of value scale we are going to work with. Since I'm not necessarily know what type of value scale I want, I think I will go with the full value scale for now, and then I will drop it off a little bit. So let's start. So definitely not going to work with the complete white and complete black. We are going to work with probably 90%. This is going to be our so-called highlight. Then we're determining the darkest point in our work, which is going to be probably this one. Also, it will help us because we have darker lines in our sketch. And probably something in the middle. So I will choose 5 values. Most of the artists, they're choosing like 3 values, but 3 values is pretty hard to actually work with all 3 values. I think I will choose 5 values and we'll go in between them. So let's just determine with the steps. So we choose this one, 1 2 3, 1 2 3, 1 2 3. Yeah, these 5 values would be probably a good idea. But one in the middle, I think we need to choose somewhere in here. No, let's just go a little bit. And yeah, a little bit darker in here. So yeah, these are five values that I'm going to work with. I think it's going to be more than enough for the sketching or for trying to understand like the first try. If it's going to be super light in particular areas or super dark, I always can change it. But for now, let's just determine, because in the end I want to work with the full value scale, and it's not going to be neither low key neither high key work. It's just it's going to be the full key value illustration, or at least I'm kind of want it to be like this. If I will decide that full value scale is not going to work for this, then I will probably test different value scales, but for now we are going to work with this one. Okay, again, I'm trying to figure out this on the go. Like, I know how it works in theory, but I didn't practice it. So for me, this is like a boom explosion in my brain. So sorry in advance if I'm going to like stutter or whatever. It's just because I'm still adjusting to this. Eventually I will figure out how to properly work with it. But okay, again, this is the whole point of this like AleksConnects sandbox. I just wanted to provide like the full experience. So I'm starting and I'm not necessarily know what I'm doing 100% at a time. There are things that I understand how to do, there are things that I don't understand how to do, and I'm just basically working on these things. You see in this, and hopefully you will get something out of it, because I'm learning and I'm providing these things, and that way you could see this process like from start to finish, and it could help actually to create some type of a example that not everything is that easy, and not only you going through these struggles, so me too, and this kind of relatability hopefully will inspire you to continue to do what you're doing, because this is something that I actually lack, or not lack, but this is something that I actually wanted to have when I learned before, but I didn't necessarily had this feeling of that I'm struggling but no one else is struggling, like, and this feeling of alone was not very good feeling. So yeah, okay, let's just start. So usually, as theory actually tells us, we need to start with the middle grays. So we need to start with the middle and go from middle to the dark or to the light. This is one way to start, starting from the middle one. The other way to start is start from the darks, and the other way is to start from the lights. Again, I don't have practice from neither of these type of elements. I think it all depends how your brain works best. For instance, some people work from dark to light better, and they could sculpt this way. By sculpting, I mean, of course, creating form in 2D better. For someone, working from middle works best. For someone, working from the lights works best. Yeah, I think I'm going to start with more logical feeling for me, at least. Like, for me, logically, I would probably work best starting from the middle, because that way I have middle value, and now I know where the lights is, and I'm putting lights and adding these lights, and then I'm putting the darks where they need to be. So this is just basically the thing that I'm going to do. And still don't know what type of brush we need to use for this. I guess we will use not the smudge one, probably this one. Okay, Okay, let's just start again, or not. No, let's just get rid of this one completely. And also, let's make this one and actually create a selection for it to not go out of the edges. Local selection. Or just transparency mask. No, we're not going to paint on the transparency mask, inside of it. And as you saw, we actually lost our swatches, so let's just put them on other layer. I don't know about this one. So yeah, we are going to start with the... Actually, let's... Yeah, I already have this one. I don't want to delete this. This is like just a previous way of depicting a particular light. So, conditions before. So, let's just start with the middle. So, assuming this is our middle value, let's just start to add lights. Okay. So, as I said before, we need to maintain a particular mood for this. So we need to take consideration the aftermath, that there's a loser side and there's a winner's side. Loser side needs to be dark, and everything about this needs to scream dark. So destruction, loss, hope, and a little bit of hope we will add, of course. And winner's side is going to depict relief, gain, and damage. So it's definitely going to be a little bit lighter. So this is the first thing that we need to keep in mind when working with light. Okay. About special limitations is just basically about placement, where we are going to place our light sources. So this is definitely need to think about. So what else? Type of light, LEDs, sunny atmosphere. Yeah, for the most part I'm going to think about dominant parts of lights, and I think the one dominant part or dominant light source is going to be the atmosphere for us. This is the first idea that I had, that gate are basically to outside are going to be our light source. It kind of represents something close to the window. Visibility, again, the atmosphere is going to be visible. We're not going to think about like small type of lights for now. Let's just go with the big dominant one. How many light sources? Again, we're not going to work with local lights, but for now it's just going to work with the area lights, because they are affect composition and mood for the most part. I think it's too light though. I think we need to make it much darker. Okay, assuming this is going to be our light source, the gate. If the gate is going to be our light source, it means that slightly this light is going to be present in here too. I still think that it needs to be much darker. the closer this to us, less light it receives. So going to work for the walls the same way. We're not going to think about details that much, we just need slight suggestions. Of course, ideally, I'm going to put something in there. I definitely need to think about putting some type of environment into the back. It's going to be barely visible, but it's definitely going to be there. I'm not going to think about it yet, because first I need to actually figure out where these light sources are going to be, and how to depict the best way, and then I'm going to stress about details or something in there. Because again, these are the open gatewatch, and ideally I would put definitely some type of environment suggestions in there. It would be a pretty cool thing to do, but we need to do this only on later stages. It's pretty early to think about this. Okay. A little bit of light on the ceiling, definitely. It's going to go from here. This is probably the way when it would be better to work with it from dark to light. I don't know. I kind of started with from mid values to light values and then dark values, but it's not going to work and pop out right away. Okay, where the light is going to be spread. Yeah, a little bit in here. The sides. And the closer light to us, of course, the more it fades off, if this is our main light source. But I definitely think it's not going to be enough. I think we'll need to add something more. Subtle changes. Ideally, of course, I would want to work a little bit faster, but again, don't have experience to work fast. For now, I'm going to work in the pace of learning, practicing, whatever the pace is going to be. The whole thing about this project, I'm not thinking about speed and making things fast. I'm taking time to make things good. The thing is, like, of course, this light source is going to create a bunch of bounces. So light actually is going to be bouncing right here, from here it's going to be bounced there, and there's a bunch of like things that are going to happen, and we kind of need to consider them definitely at this point. So I think things right here needs to be a little bit lighter. It's definitely not enough light. I need for this light to actually reach Angry Birds. Maybe we will make this one lighter later. By the way, right here is going to be, for the most part, dark. I'm just putting light first, then I'm going to... Of course, the fastest way to understand where to put lighting would be put it into 3D program, which I could do, but I kind of want to push myself to actually test this by drawing it, because I want to learn to do this in 2D eventually. Of course, using 3D programs if you don't have time would be a smarter idea, but especially when you already know how to do this in 2D. And again, theoretically I know how to do this in 2D, but I need to now put it into practice and understand where I'm efficient, where I'm not. Because I guess the only way to gain efficiency is to practice. See what's working, what's not. Okay, with lights I think it's for now enough. Let's just go with the darkest darks. In terms of the environment, lights are going to affect our transformers, of course, but it's going to be super subtle. We don't have enough pixelization to actually suggest these things. It's not going to be visible at all. This is just going to create a little bit of a rim light, I guess, here. We're not even going to affect our characters at all. Okay, let's just go with the darks. Of course, obvious darks right away are going to go from the statues. This area is definitely going to be the darkest one, because again, kind of wanted to suggest that this is like a separation inside the wall. I definitely understand already that it's not going to be enough to put only one light source in here, because it needs to be super strong to actually lighten up everything. And since it's going to be a atmosphere area light, it could be strong enough. But I think it's not going to create dramatic scene, unfortunately. For adding drama to this one, we're definitely going to add a bunch of additional lights. Again, I'm planning to try to add fire in here and here, a little bit fire in here, maybe create a light source on top of the ceiling and actually put it like down on our characters. We'll see. By the way, it could be a pretty interesting idea to put a bunch of candles in here and actually make candles lighten up our characters slightly. It will create the warmth that we need in this area, but at the same time, it could be too much, because again, candles are not strong enough to actually lighten up a particular place of the scene. That way we need to create less light surrounding it. The more lights, so in order to make candles to actually lighten up our characters, we need to dim the light from the area light. So it's pretty easy to understand, because of course if you're trying to lighten up the candle during the day, candle is just not going to be visible. It's not going to be impactful enough. But if you're going to lighten the candle during the night time, of course it's going to work. It will create everything that you want. It will be dominant enough. Also a question, how far from the wall these statues are. Yeah, I think we definitely need to create darker things, because even when I'm pressing, yeah, it's a pretty big difference, because again it smudges things out right away, because this brush is actually works with what's already put into the canvas, and kind of makes things a little bit lighter, which could be a good thing. I don't know. We'll think about this. Yeah, I think this is not a very good choice to work with the smudge brushes. Let's just go with something bolder, that not smudges things, that puts things the way it needs to be. We could smudge it later. Okay, this is kind of good. We could work with it. And for the most part, everything in here is going to be in the dark. It's not very smart choice to work with the drop shadows right away, or the casting shadows, when you not established your different light sources, or all light sources. Because I need to rework all of them either way. So definitely it's going to be a question of the proper value, considering the type of color that we're going to color on our Angry Birds. Since we already know what type of colors Angry Birds are going to represent it in, it's going to be a little bit easier for us to understand. So of course right now I'm definitely not putting the right values, not even close. Which is the thing that I definitely need to learn how to control properly, because like choosing the proper values considering the color that you're going to put your characters in, it's a pretty hard thing to do still. It's like I need to right away to choose a proper color with the proper value and do this first to make it right. I don't know, or at least it seems like it. Again, my job is not to create a realistic thing right now, it's just to create like overall mood, how it's going to work, if it's going to work. Figuring out the overall mood is much more important for now. Still going through a little bit details, but the good thing that we don't have that much pixelization to work with details. It kind of makes things a little bit easier. You don't need to stress about too much, just putting things, like suggesting things. Yeah, for this we definitely need to use a smudge brush. Just make one darker. It's not going to face any light for the most part. Scooby-Doo. Not going to see anything in here. We're going to see a little bit in here. A little bit of shadows. I definitely need to make birds lighter. They are too dark. So right here, things are going to be pretty contrasty. That's when it's good to understand the form that you're working with, to properly suggest where the light zones are and where the dark zones are. I think overall mood of this illustration needs to be relatively dark. Yeah, I wouldn't want to make this super light, because again, everything that surrounds Angry Birds needs to be in the dark. Okay, this one needs to be in the dark too, because light is not coming through. Although it probably will reflect back from here and lighten up a little bit, but not much. So right now I'm not working with individual values. I'm kind of taking one big value thing and drawing everything with the same value. And this is one of the problems that I'm having in my mind. Like, I understand that every object and subject in the scene has its own value, but it's pretty hard for me to actually wrap around my head around this. Like, yeah, this is something that I definitely need to learn how to do. Okay, the darkest part of the shadow, casting shadow, of course, is going to be closer to the subject, and the further it goes, the more fades off it becomes. It also depends on how close this transformer to the wall. Again, we don't have enough pixelization to actually work with it properly, but to suggest it. By the way, let's just make things in here too. Yeah, if I had experience in this, I would probably already finished this one and gone into the next one and quickly gone through a couple of sketches and tried different lighting situations. But since I don't have it, like, I'm going slowly, one by one. Red is going to be, I think, pretty light in terms of a value. Darkest one, of course, is going to be this one. It's just basically going to be super black. So I guess we could right away make for it the darkest value. The lightest value is going to be in here. Our chuck is going to be the lightest. Just determining the local values, I guess. Trying to learn how to work with local values. Because again, every subject in the scene has its own value. Talking about red. Red again probably going to have something in the middle. The same goes for bubbles, I guess. Although orange a little bit lighter. I think, yeah, bubbles is going to be this value and maybe a little bit lighter. No, I'm making it lighter. It's going to be closer to the chuck. It's not final in any way, but I think red needs to be slightly dark. Let's just go make it a little bit darker. Of course, the fastest way to figure out the value of the particular color is to actually take it from reference. Okay. Also, local value of the tablecloth definitely needs to be light. Maybe even lighter than chalk. I think I would ideally make it super white. So probably 90. Maybe even 95. But again, for now I'm not going to push values that much. Of course I'm going to look for the contrast, because this thing needs to create a contrast feeling for every character. If white not going to work, of course I'm going to change it. But the cool thing, if things are going to work in values or not going to work in values, we always can change things in color. But if you have the ability to create a contrast in values, of course it's a better way to do this in values. Okay, this one of course is going to be lighter. It's getting in the shadow a bit. Okay, and just make it a little bit. By the way, to create a little bit more contrast, I wanted to make this part of the garment or this part of the tablecloth actually darker. I don't know how dark it's going to be. So let's just keep it for now dark. Or I think it's too dark. Or the things inside the right here is not enough darkness to them. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I didn't manage to work only with 5 values. It's always, you always want to add more. And I think the more experienced you're going to get, the smarter choices in this regard you're going to make. This cast shadow is going to be pretty big. Again, when you're painting, brain goes out of consciousness. I don't know, kind of becomes a little bit unconscious, and you a little bit, yeah. Quintessa. It looks strange for me, because like this difference between all values throws me off a little bit. Okay then, so we're gonna determine the local values, and for every local value we need to determine the darkest dark for this value and the lightest light for this for this type of value, so which kind of makes things a little bit harder. So okay, for instance, for this one the darkest dark would be probably what, yeah, so this is 83, which is something in here, and I think the darkest dark is going to be in this particular lighting situation something like this, probably. The problem is it's not going to look actually in the shadow even darker. Okay, and the lightest light, of course, is going to be something super white. Okay, let's just create a little bit of shadows in here. It's definitely going to be present. Okay, determining the darkest darks and lightest lights for this one. So 20, somewhere in here. Lightest lights would be probably something closer to this one. It's not going to be that much. Maybe even lighter. Maybe it's even too light. Considering, yeah, I definitely need to add light source from the top. Now, I think it's definitely going to be the thing. If I'm not going to, it's going to look stupid. I need more information. And the darkest darks, of course, is going to be the actual darks. Usually, it's all about subtlety. Although working with subtle changes in here, it's pretty hard because we can work with only 5 type of values, which I already overpassed, I guess. I already used even darker things and lighter things. So yeah, by making this tablecloth this light, kinda actually draws attention to the tablecloth itself instead of Angry Birds. But when I'm going to color them, it's going to completely change things, because right now the center of attention kind of a tablecloth and this gate. Could make gate less obvious by creating some type of structures in there. It's not going to look very good, I think. Again, I'm just suggesting. I will think. I will see if it's going to look good or not at the end. Now I just need to put something in here to see how it's going to look. Bim bididim bim bim bim. Too crowdy. Kind of want to make them a little bit present, but at the same time barely viewable. Okay. I think I need to add a light source from the top, definitely, because it doesn't work. They are too dark. The good thing is that dynamic is actually present, overall dynamic, and this is a good thing. But there's a lot of things that I don't like about this, of course. Can I need to make them right? Again, it's not going to be that light. It means that I need to make him darker. It's super dark. I don't know, it's unrealistically dark. Okay, I definitely need references, which I probably had to use right away. Let's open our Pinterest gallery and actually see what we have there. Didn't think that I actually would need references for this one, but I guess I do, because I need to understand their local values and figure out how they're going to look. Okay, red is definitely much lighter. And chalk is much lighter too. Chalk probably 95. Whoa. Oh, come on. Oh, come on. 95. I'll just use this one. Wait a minute. What happened? Why everything is gone all of a sudden? By the way, saving changes. Oh, it's too long. Hard drive was in the state of resting. Okay, this was closer to the truth a little bit. Hi there, Coffee-san. This is Welkin turn. Krachka. Velkin turn. Velkin turn. Yeah, so this one definitely needs to be lighter, and red definitely needs to be lighter too. Pretty. I actually restricted Russian. For some reason, it's still there because I don't know. I definitely not going to talk in Russian, but of course it would be much easier. I think if you restrict chat by the way, you restrict your chat Russians only, and it means that no one can like write in English or other language, or I don't know. For instance, I restrict the chat to English only, but for some reason it still shows Russian. That's just strange. You tell me it doesn't work, this restriction? Why it's there? It's not working. Beaks. Yeah, good. I actually like super waiting for the wrestling. I know that couple of interesting things happened on Raw, and I'm actually looking forward to see them. But I can't because we didn't see pay-per-view yet. So yeah, first we need to watch pay-per-view, of course. I'm looking forward to it. So yeah, on Sunday it's fine. Sunday, not Saturday. I hope you're not spoiled the results. Because if you do, I will spoil them too. Yeah. Sunday. Good. We don't want spoils. Sometimes they're inevitable, but I actually didn't spoil anything yet, which is a good thing. But it's only the middle of the week, I think. But the only thing that could spoil me results is Twitter. But I will be careful. I will be careful with this. Yeah, definitely need to put additional lights, because it's not enough. So I think I will definitely put lights on. Yeah, I'm not reading it, I'm posting their things, and when I'm just launching it, it goes into the news right away. So I need to cover first page and then go into my profile. How's your streams are going? PT. Not a lot of progress, but still going slightly. I wish it was faster, But again, don't have that much experience, that's why it's not fast. But in time I think I will get the speed and will become a little bit faster. So yeah, the fact that they are too different, it's kind of throws me off a little bit. So this one is too dark, this one is too light. Although these are real values, which is strange. Awesome, awesome, awesome. You mean 1000 overall views? Yeah, I think you mean overall, because in one stream 1000 views is too much. Yeah, overall views 1000, it's cool. Cool, cool, cool. Put a little bit of light on a teapot. Mrs. Teapot. Yeah. Super mega star. Yeah, 11 watches is pretty good. I saw you today like at 7 maximum, or no, 8. 8. That was 8, yeah. But it's still awesome. I didn't get yet past 2 viewers, or one constant is me and like the rest. Again, I'm not that like bothered about this. I'm still at the beginning. I think it needs more time. Yeah, Gwent is awesome. I like it too. But you still, most of your sessions, you kind of go half of the session with Hearthstone and then you're playing Gwent. You didn't play Eternal anymore, or you tested a little bit? Yeah. So yeah, you played Eternal or not? And not going to be, or you will give it a try? Cool. Again, the only thing about Eternal that I don't like, it's the mood of the Eternal. It's like super dark. I don't know. I definitely will like play it too. I will give it a chance in the future, but for me, like for now, it seems too dark. I don't know what's the theme of the Eternal like, but yeah, it's pretty similar to MTG, I guess. Yeah, MTG is much deeper because it has like, come on, years behind it. Of course. Yeah, they're kind of stopped talking about Arena. They promised that at the end of this month they will open 24-hour closed beta games, so you can actually play 24-hour on the servers. But so far they are kind of not doing anything. There's no post on Twitter about any type of actions, what they're taking now. I don't know what's going to be next. I still going to play duels even after Magic Arena will out, because I don't think that they will make something in Magic Arena. There's definitely not going to be in Magic Arena neither two-handed giant. They are going to focus Magic Arena solely on one-on-one games, so they're not going to put in there anything like to play with your teammates, for instance, at least at the beginning. I think it's going to be years and years of waiting. First they promised that they put one-on-one play, one-on-one matches. Then in time that they will add draft, and slightly. So yeah, I don't think that they're going to put there two-handed giant, which is sad. This is awesome thing. I actually tried to play today two-handed giant in Magic 2014 with AI. That was horrible. Lost both games. It's pretty hard to play with AI. Okay, it's just time to go with this one and make it dark. Magic duels. The cool thing about Magic Duels, I think Magic Duels is going to be relevant for a long period of time, because it has like 9 or 8 sets, starting from Origins and ending with Kaladesh, which is pretty a lot of sets in there, which make this game pretty interesting. After Magic Duels after Magic Arena will be released, maximum they will have 1-2 sets. It's not going to be deep enough. In time it will, but I think Magic Duels will be relevant until Magic Arena will have more sets. Let's just make this thing darker. Yeah, I don't think that I will go into the next version of this. I think I'm just going to kind of test this version until I'm going to be satisfied with it. I'm talking about painting. Because it's a lot of things to do. Yeah. Good play and good sleep. See you on Sunday. Okay, we need to put these things out. Krachki! Velkin turn in English. A Velkin turn. Yeah, I've gone too far. I don't need a lot of details in here. But at the same time, I don't want to make this thing too dark. Kinda super dark, actually, to make it lighter. Especially if I will put some type of lighting on the top. It definitely needs to be lighter. Lighter. There. Okay. Also, right here, of course, things needs to be a little bit darker, because again, the closer this thing to us, the less light is going to be received, and the more contrast this thing is going to have. So this part is definitely going to be much darker. In reality, of course, it's going to have a little bit of the reflected light in here, bounce light that will go in here and make this part a little bit lighter, but I'm not going to consider this yet. Again, I'm just working with overalls. kind of make things a little bit strange. No, it's too dark. Lighten up a little bit. Lighten up a little bit. I think we need to make this part of the wall darker actually. Further from the light, but at the same time, if I have light on the top, maybe it's not going to be that dark. I will still make it a little bit darker, just for the sake of creating a depth. Creating a depth. The ceiling needs to be dark, or at least darker than this one. Also, the corners of the in between wall and the ceiling needs to have a little bit dark to them. Kinda will make things a little bit more. And overall, the top part of the walls will receive less light by design. That's just how light works. Ideally, this stage is here for us to make sure that we will cover all these things in this stage, and then we will simply go and work on the final rendering faster. So the more problems we are going to solve in this stage, the better it's going to be for us to not face these problems on the rendering stages, because we're definitely going to face with a lot of problems on rendering stages without these problems, and if we're not going to solve these problems now on rendering stages, there will overflood our brain with too many information and too many problems to solve, and we will make mistakes. I'd rather spend more time on these type of small thumbnails and try these things now than leave them for later and deal with a lot of problems. Yeah, wait a sec, kinda wanna check one thing. Check one thing! 1 2 1 2. Check 1 2. Oh no. Yeah. Dashboard. I need to go into the dashboard and check out the stream. How things are working there. Yeah, for some reason it's pretty cool. Okay, let's continue. So yeah, the more time I'm going to spend on this stage, the better, because I don't want to spend too many time on solving problems that I didn't solve before. So solving these problems now would be beneficial for the rendering stages. Then we're going to focus on rendering only, and that's going to be much more efficient. Still don't like the value separation in here, but again, we will make up this in color, because again, after I will color this one, and this one, this is going to be an orange, red, yellow, this is just going to be a black, with a little bit of tint of a particular color from the surroundings. It kind of will make them pop out more. Also, after I will add bounce lights everywhere, things are going to look better. For now, it's over the top. So chalk, pretty visible. It's pops out pretty good from far. Bomb, visible too. Actually, he's too dark. Probably the darker than what we have under the table, which is probably not the best way of depicting this. Maybe we need to make things under the table a little bit more darker. I think Quintessa needs to be a little bit darker because, again, I think she's too light. Part of her is going to be in the light, but most of her is going to be under the table. Kind of need to suggest this de facto. Oh, actually, what if I make this one super dark? And then put a rim light on them by fire. That way it will actually make them much more interesting. And it's going to be much more visible on the metallic surfaces or metal surfaces than on the creatures itself, because these creatures are going to be furry, and fur is actually absorbing light instead of reflecting it, of course. And the metal actually will be reflecting lights. So if I'm going to put fire in here, it's going to be impactful only on metal, which is a good thing, because that way we could actually showcase better Quintessa and all these heads and make them a little bit better. There's still a super dark thing in here. I think it's too dark even. It's pretty hard to decide. Yeah, I think it's too dark. Okay, let's choose our smooshy tooshy brush. Smooshy brush. And make things slightly lighter. It's going to be, for the most part, just smooth out the forms that are already here. But again, bomb is too black. We need to make it a little bit grayer-ish. Too dark. This one is too white. We need to make it a little bit grayish, like so. Ideally, if I will spend time on doing this one and solve almost all of my problems in here, the beneficial thing about this is going to be I'm going to have everything that I need in terms of a value scale. So okay, I will know that okay, this one is going to be my highest value, for instance, or this one, and I will create my own value swatches for me to follow and actually render final work. And from there, it's just about small details and etc. Okay. I don't know, like, if I'm going to look from far, then this is super far. It needs to work, and if it's not working, it's not very good. It's not necessarily creates this feeling of destruction. I think in order to create this feeling of destruction, we need to make things darker in here. They're not dark enough. By making things darker in here, it actually will make it better. Okay, good. So it still looks a little bit better. Could even take it here. Slightly change things. Oh. Oh yeah. Okay, this one looks a little bit better. I think I need to make the overall floor darker. I guess one of the problems that floor is too light. I need to make it darker. And if we're going to make it that dark there, it means that it's going to be even darker closer to us, and this is actually will make things the way that it needs to be. Oh. Okay, we need to choose a darker color in here, because the darker foreground is, the easier for us to make our main focus to pop out, because for the most part main focus is not going to consist of the dark colors and dark values. The darkest value in here is this one, but it's going to be lightened up by lighter values in here, or accentuated. I don't know. Okay. Okay. This one looks a little bit better. Okay then. I think I need to make walls darker too, of course. They kinda need to go with the flow of the floor. Super joke, not funny. Super joke, not funny. Because again, this is a Cybertron. It needs to be dark. Ideally, I would make all walls just simply super dark. And I think this is a thing to test, I think. I definitely will test this. I need to think about making walls super dark. Whoa. Gone too far. And it's not a bad thing if our background is going to be almost the same value. For instance, the fact that statues are almost the same value as the walls and the floor. Again, our main focus needs to be put in here. And this is our main concern. Okay, now this thing looks a little bit more manageable, but still these seem too dark. Let's just make them a little bit lighter. It's super hard to talk when you're working on something. Like, come on. Ideally, you would want to put right here in the darkest part the darkest value, but it's not. For the most part, shadows are not complete dark. They're not 100% black. Or when we're talking about lightness. And this subtlety is actually will work in the end, but it's still not easy thing to properly depict. By the way, forget to create a shadow for this one. Although it's not going to be that visible, but could create pretty interesting thing in here. We still need to plan casting shadows a little bit better. For now, I'm just depicting these casting shadows from this light source. And of course, it's not 100% right, but again, we need to create an illusion. Yeah, I don't like the result. Like, overall, some parts are working and some parts are completely not working. So for instance, if I would make all these guys the same value, this one probably could work. But because of their differences in value, it kind of throws me off a little bit. Because I understand that after I'm going to color them, they will work. But I kind of want them to work in value stages too, and it's not necessarily working right. Dark in here. A shadow created by wings. Okay, let's try to add So for instance, if we have a fire in here, let's assume that we have fire. Ideally, I would want to actually test this on a different layer. So let's assume that we have a fire. Yeah, let's just do this on other layer, because if I'm not going to stick with the fire, so let's assume that right here we actually have a fire. Doesn't look like fire, but whatever. Of course, if I'm going to create fire, I'm going to direct it right to our characters. Not that obvious way. Fire needs to be a little bit more chaotic, not like, oh, I'm showing you where to look. This one actually looks a little bit more chaotic. This one is too... whatever, I'm still not going to keep it, so yeah. I just wanted to see how it's going to look. Also, let's add a little bit of a fire in here too. Actually, will create pretty interesting results. It's going to be semi-transparent. Just experimenting where I could place the lighting sources and see how these lighting sources are going to affect overall feel. Again, doesn't look like a fire, but don't care. Not supposed to look like a fire. It just needs to create a particular thing. Okay, so fire is definitely going to create something on the wall, and wall going to be lightened up by the fire. Maybe we could even see something in here, depending where this thing is actually placed. Something in the wall, reflecting from the wall. By the way, how many time we left? Oh no, 15 minutes. Yeah, this is definitely not the session that I'm going to extend, so let's just quickly go with it. Okay. Probably I could place a little fire somewhere here, but it's not going to be that visible at all. And let's try to do things that I wanted to do. So fire is going to definitely be present partially in this metal thing, which will accentuate the fact that this is actually metal, which is good for us. Same for the Quintess, I guess. Quintess is definitely going to have a little bit of fire reflections. Same for this one. Oh, come on. was unfortunate. Also, let's actually try to accentuate the glowing eyes in here, just for the sake of, I don't know, creating some type of a dramatic effect. It's not going to be visible at all in here. Also, the fact that I wanted to put some type of a glowy things in the hands. Okay. Not easy. I wish it would be easier, but I'm kinda struggling. But at the same time not. I don't know. 50-50. Either way, all this information that we gathered so far, actually, I'm actually using it in the back of my mind. I'm aware of it, and I'm trying to actually implement it. Maybe I'm not talking about it like specifically because again, I'm more focused on actually making this happen than explaining how it works, because I need to gain experience, and then after I will clearly practice this from time to time, with more confidence, I'm going to explain it. But for now, I'm just aware of these things and I'm thinking about them, trying to implement these scenes. The more light sources you have, the harder it is to work with them, of course. It's the thing. You need to consider everything. Again, fur, it's not going to, for the most part, represent anything in terms of a light from the fire. You're not going to see that much. Maybe a slight specular on the fur. This one is not going to have almost. Okay then. The cool thing is, contrast is actually works fine. So in terms of like value distributions and creating a contrasts, so this part, for instance, is going to be dark, but this part is going to be light, and it kind of creates a contrast. So although our character is completely black, this part is lighter, this one is darker, and it kind of creates this, so it makes him pop out from the overall thing. So of course we are going to create some type of a lost edges in there, so there's not always going to be a separation. For instance, we could create a lost edge in here. We're not necessarily want to separate these parts. By the way, so prepare for horribleness. Right now I'm going to turn off the sketch and we are going to see it only with values. Oh, it's going to be awful. Or maybe it's going to be good. Let's see. Oh, it actually doesn't look that bad. It actually doesn't look that bad. Huh. I thought it's going to be even, like, I actually thought it's going to be worst. But I guess it's not. I guess the problem was the super thick lines of the sketch. There actually was a distraction. By the way, I actually forgot that I wanted to make them slightly present, but for some reason I didn't. I forgot about this. Right, at the beginning of the session I actually wanted to make them barely visible, probably on 25%, but then I just forgot about it. Okay, good. Without lines it actually works moderately cool. Of course there's fire is not going to be like direct exactly like this. By the way, let's put Transformers parts in these things in here. So where our layer with the fire. Let's just put them in here. There's a bunch of details in here. We don't need to specify what type of details are here. We just need to specify that something in here. That this fire is not just fire. Can just sculpt whatever we could imagine in here. Although I definitely need to think about what I actually going to put there, because again, ideally in this place are going to be placed the transformer parts, just different transformer parts, and we definitely need to figure out how they are going to like work. There definitely needs to be scratchy, metal look like. For now, let's just put a couple of suggestions in here and there. Makes this fire look strange. Ideally, I would want to look at the fire references before doing this. Working without references, it's strange. Yeah, the more experience you will gain, the less dependent on references you will become, but still, using references awesome thing, because your main thing is to make your work as quality as possible, like the best quality as possible, and why wouldn't you use all these things that at your disposal to actually do this? It doesn't seem right. Looks more like a snow. Oh, as a fire. Still, these things are just soften them a little bit. So yeah, when you get rid of the lines, now you're actually sculpting, because before that I kinda just tried to stay closer to the lines, but when I'm actually get rid of these lines, now I'm actually sculpting with values. That's where the parallel between these things started to become more obvious. I actually lost where the actual legs are. TMI. Yeah, too much information to actually properly place it. It's suggested with bright colors. That's so funny. Again, if I would work on this one with references, it would be much better. Because I would have information about particular values and lots of other things. Yeah, I think I need to make red a little bit lighter. Maybe we need to consider to make this part even darker. But then we need to explain why this part is darker. Maybe something got in the way and created this shadow. It's going to be slightly done. Our main thing is to make sure that we are going to focus on creating a contrast around our characters to make them pop out. If it's going to be a little bit slightly out of the realism, it's not a bad thing. We just need to be careful with this because it needs to be believable. Artists would probably will notice this, but our main goal is for the regular viewer not to notice this problem. If artists will notice this problem, whatever. We're not drawing for the artist, we're drawing for the regular viewers. It's always a good thing when the artist is admiring our work. Always a cool thing to feel when you as an artist have some type of an admirer, the other artist that likes your work or a particular thing about your work. But our end customer is not an artist, and this is usually what other artists are like mislead almost every artist. Because when we're starting to create, we kind of getting in the habit of creating for other artists. But our like final consumer is not an artist. Yeah, I definitely need to design these transformer parts piles and actually figure out where it's going to be placed there. For now it's just like strange things, unrelated. But I'll definitely need to think about this. Oh wait a minute, we already gone past the time. We are past the time. Yeah, unfortunately I can't extend the session, so I think we need to finish. The last thing that I'm going to do is create something in here, just to get rid of this super white thing in this angle, in this corner. going to be pretty similar to this one. Slight changes here and there. So yeah, I definitely need to refresh my mind and see this one better, because again, right now my eye is kind of get used to this one, and after this break or tomorrow I will see it a little bit differently, and I will probably see the things that I didn't saw before. So for now, it kind of works, I think. Still need to put a lot of work into it to make it look better. Yeah, but overall division in like planes or in values kind of works. At least when it comes to the walls, ceiling and floor, I think it will stay approximately the same. I could make it a little bit darker though, but I will definitely think about this. Yeah, this is something to really consider. So for now, let's just keep it this way, with the sketch visible or barely visible, not barely but slightly visible. Save and this session. Krishi. Fingers, broken fingers. Oh, everything is aching. That's why you need to make a break or take a break in between every hour. So yeah, I kind of like the result, at least for now. It kind of works from the far. Ideally, again, it actually kind of creates a little bit of illusion that this is actually a gate that actually shines light into the long hall. We definitely need to accentuate the red more, because red is kind of, I don't know, meshed up with this part. We need to make this part a little bit darker, I think. We almost not seeing bubbles. Bubbles is almost not present. It's too similar to the table in terms of the values. Of course, bomb is super accentuated, so it's actually visible from far. But again, most of these problems I'm going to solve when I'm going to work with the colors, because I definitely know that these guys are going to be colored in specific colors, and this is actually a beneficial thing for us, because I know that after I will like create a red, or let's just do this quickly just for the sake of like test. I just want to check this thing out. So let's just take a random red color, which is not even close to the actual red color, but still. By creating these things, and by the way, these values are not even close to the real values of these characters. It's just an example that even though values are similar, they're not going to be similar after we will like color them. because I definitely going to rework values. So actually use black. Don't remember what color these things are. Let's just create them black for now, just to accentuate them a little bit. So now they are reading from the far. So yeah, colors will definitely help us if values not going to solve our problem. But ideally, you need to put down values the ideal way, almost close to what you need. But it's not always the case. Sometimes you will end up with the similar values. But again, we can't change these colors. So for instance, if I actually designed all of these characters, then I would probably created a different values for them. But values for the most part are going to be controlled by the specific color, and we need to pick a color closer to the original. If we could change it and make it better for our scene, that will probably find a workaround this problem. But until then, this one is the thing. Yeah, so on that note, we will end this session. Today, tomorrow we will continue to do this. I don't know, definitely I will continue to work on the depicting the proper values. Maybe I will make a different version of it. We'll see, but I don't think so though. Like, I think that going with these light conditions would be a better choice. The only thing that I could change is probably I don't know, the intensity of the light. So I could play around with the intensity, make things a little bit lighter in here, a little bit lighter in here, a little bit darker around. But for the most part, lighting conditions are determined by a specific things that we are learned from our lighting staging. We determine the specific mood, we determine the spatial limitations, types of lighting and its availability, visibility, how many lights, where they're placed, and all these things are actually already created so these were the questions, and these are the answers. I definitely will put here a parts of the transformers that are going to burn on fire. Right here too, right here too, right here too. It will accentuate this element of destruction that we needed. I definitely will place a little bit of lights in here, like just small LED lights in the eyes. The same for this one. It's the obvious lighting source, which will create pretty interesting contrast, and it's going to be pretty interesting focal point, or at least leading to focal point. So yeah, and the only thing that I actually will probably add as an additional lighting source is something on the top, something that could create a little bit more shape, better, yeah, better look for this part. Yeah, so for the most part this is actually kind of works. It's still not final, but kind of works. So yeah, definitely on this note I will end the session. Thank you for watching, thank you for being here, have a nice day or night, and see you in the next session. Bye bye.